decided before this incident, but we decided best if I was standing outside in the fresh air. Now, if you're watching services, you can actually be watching on 3 different platforms. We have 2 different Facebook platforms. We have our Beth Adam Facebook platform, as well as our Jewish community platform. And then we have the bethadam.org website. So you can be on any one of those 3. And if you are on one of those 3, you can chat. Now, only the people on that particular website will see your chat. It's not as if people can see everyone's chat. And there are people on different places and doing different things. And people also watch even at different times when it's more convenient for them. If you're chatting, please be welcoming, be respectful. Our administrative director and our office manager are online as well. And if you have specific questions about the nature of Beth Adam or about liturgy or about timing, best to interact with them, ask them for the information. They have all the most updated information and the correct information. And if you want, they can also send it to you, or you can be in contact with them after the holidays are over. If you don't want to see the chat, you don't have to. If you're on bethadam.org, you can not log into the chat function and you won't see it. And also on our bethadam.org, you can expand it so the entire screen is the video, whatever you choose. I think we have covered most of our technical problems. That doesn't mean it's not going to happen, but right now we seem to be under control. So if you're having a sound issue, likely that it is on your side at this point, at your computer. You might want to restart your computer. You might want to lower if you're streaming on high, you can move it to medium. That might make it better. You can also just look at your own sound. You might want to turn it up. If you like what you're experiencing, feel free to let people know that you've found bethadam.org and that it's a meaningful service for you. Post it if you're watching on Facebook. Post it, share it on Facebook. That's good for us. Gets people to know about this community and how special it is. Also, if you'd like to make a donation, obviously donations are greatly appreciated. You can go to bethadam.org, and there is on that page a place to make contributions. If you have some difficulty or a question, go again. Talk to our executive director, Melissa. Ask her, say, I need some help doing that, and let her give you the information that you need. So we're going to start our service in about 6 minutes. We're going to start at 10:30. Glad that you're here joining us for the service, and then this afternoon at about 1, we will be doing our streaming, our Zoom, I should say, our Zoom hybrid Torah study. So look forward to seeing you throughout the rest of Rosh Hashanah, and then hopefully you'll join us again for Yom Kippur.
Couldn't love it anymore. Couldn't love it anymore.
Oh, thank you.
look over comfort, you know?
These are not, they don't actually fit anymore, but I figured out the from the car to here.
That's right.
I mean, they fit enough. Yeah, exactly. But I figured they were worth it.
Shana Tova. Happy New Year to all of you. I want to welcome you, my friends, and Beruchim Habayim. We are so glad to be with you all, whether here in our sanctuary or online. It is a good day to be together. I realized during last night's service that I have helped lead services at Beth Adam for 4 years. And this is the 4th different way that I've done it. First year was in person, the second year was online and recorded, third was live streaming in an empty sanctuary, and now, this is a rabbinic Where's Waldo? Where's Rabbi Bar? Here he is by the doorway of our great space. His wife Terry tested positive for COVID, but is on the mend, thankfully. But we as a congregation decided to err on the side of caution, and we decided to do the services a little bit differently. Again, And so we begin a new day and a new year together. I ask that you turn off your cell phones. If you don't know how to do that, ask the person next to you. And we will continue on page 20. B'chodesh HaShvi'i. In the 7th month, the first day of the month, shall be a solemn rest to you. No work shall be done, a memorial proclaimed with the blast of the Shofar, a holy convocation. Sound the Shofar on the new moon in the time appointed for our festival day. A new year, a challenge to start anew, like the new day dawning fresh with possibilities, cool and clear and silent in the early morn. The year stands before us. It offers challenge, teases awareness, and tests our resolve. We begin our journey this morning, challenged to start anew. As the day breaks, we can continue to retrace the paths of our yesterdays, staying with the safety and comfort of the known. We can maintain the security of the borders of our lives, attempting to assure ourselves that we can do no more. Living with the pleasures and the pain of the known seems the surest, safest security. And yet, the new year presents itself. Looking ahead, we feel the excitement of challenge. We are stirred by possibilities, beckoning us to expand our limits, stretch our minds, open our hearts. The new year invites us to respond. We begin our journey this morning, stirred by possibilities. Slowly, awakening to the sounds of this day, we stretch forth our arms, our imaginings, and our hearts. Softly, we hear the whisper within us, the stirring of our souls, the words we dare not stifle. Quietly, within ourselves, timidly, shyly, we explore, we notice, we nourish possibilities for growth. We begin our journey this morning, stretching forth our arms and our hearts. Calmly, we bring forth our dreams, examine them in the silent spaces of our minds, view the fragments we attempt to unite. And gently, we hold these visions in our hands, attempting to weave them into the fabric of our lives, trying out their possibilities, inhaling their promise, and finally we allow ourselves to imagine with tentative, hopeful song the notes, the words, the melodies we can create. We begin our journey this morning, the opening of the new year. We sing the songs of newness, the joys of new beginnings, for that is the promise of this special day.
La 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 la. Ma tovu achanecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. La
We search for beginnings, a slow surrender to timelessness. The earth, unformed and void, gives way, molten in motion. As form and shapes appear, darkness divides, separating the day from the night, and there is evening and there is morning. Dry land appears, sprouting vegetation, seed-bearing plants, fruit trees of every kind. Cells divide, multiply, assume new forms. The waters bring forth swarms of living creatures. Birds fly across the expanse of sky. Eons pass. Life unfolds. Infinite variety forming and transforming one organic whole. In time, humans appear, struggling, finding their way, lacking the power and might of other species. They face a mysterious and threatening world. Gradually, we develop a capacity to assess, to calculate, communicate, and create. Charged with a need to know and a will to thrive, balancing the force of nature with the pull of nurture, we began a slow, persistent march. Explorers, inventors, survivors, stewards of this earth. Our survival springs from a unique and magnificent gift, a mind fueled by imagination, a heart filled with compassion, progressing towards beauty and order, honoring possibility, challenging what exists with what can be. We envision, weigh, decide, and act. We also forget. Too often we surrender these splendid gifts. The fire of imagination dies, the passion of conscience fades. The strength of vision is dulled by the fog of routine. Forgetting our gifts, we take timid sips from the cup of life. But Rosh Hashanah is the season of awakening. Rosh Hashanah calls us to reject the ease of acceptance, to face our best selves. Rosh Hashanah challenges us to emerge from the mist, to be present in the world, to reclaim our gifts, to embrace the task at hand. Rosh Hashanah summons us to a new relationship between the surface self, disguised in varied poses, and our inner soul, the heart of being. We peel away protective layers, the masks we wear, and view the core of ourselves. Thus we ask, is my concern about image primary? I often strive for status, but lose authenticity. Have I defended my viewpoints merely out of a fear to admit error? The power of my pride reflects my weakness. Do I see those I dislike as less worthy than myself? My self-interest distorts my perception of others. Have I become absorbed in my ambitions to the detriment of those close to me? Some of what I claim as my responsibilities are merely my appetites. Have I the courage to make changes? A break in routine, a change in direction may threaten my security. At this time of self-reflection, I stand in judgment.
May the visions of our dreams and the wishes of our hearts be fulfilled, be fulfilled, be fulfilled, be fulfilled, oh, be fulfilled, be fulfilled.
Our most fundamental connection with life and death remains a mystery, an invisible essence. What is incomprehensible to our reason recedes with every awkward approach. We can learn about our biology, perhaps prevent our premature demise, but the wellspring of knowledge, what is infinite, confounds investigation. Only when we join in what is beyond ourselves, when we reach past our separateness, move against isolation towards what is whole, can we feel our way through the mystery. What is meaningful is our impulse towards unity, to touch and be touched, to love and be loved. What is profound is the everyday, simple, heartfelt gestures, lifting a burden with another, creating beauty and sustenance, teaching a child, an injustice addressed, a fear overcome, to grow and to persevere. There is no utopia. There is no ending to human striving. We are not otherworldly. We are of this world. Now please join in silent reflection.
We continue to ask ourselves, have I taken the time to enjoy quiet moments, small pleasures that enrich my life? Or am I too rushed, pushing forward to some future purpose? Do I see play as an essential element among life's more serious goals? Or do I keep others at a distance and my feelings under rein? Have I allowed tears to fill my eyes? Or do I mistake vulnerability for weakness? Have I allowed myself to ask questions, or fearing the answers, do I continually move along my life's path without examining its direction? At this time of self-reflection, I stand in judgment. Just give me a second. Give me a second. I'm sorry, my mask is tied up in my microphone. It's a crazy time. There we go. Thanks for the indulgence. I had to get my mask off. For those of you who couldn't hear, I had to get my mask off my microphone, and wearing glasses, it's always more complicated, right? Everyone's had that experience, just like hanging and you're trying to get it. So was just my experience. So for those of you who have the service booklet in front of you, the service book, it says Torah service. And I'm standing out here and the Torah's over there. Now this is going to be magic. So, not that I have a whole thing memorized, though I used to have professors that did. We're going to use notes. But more than that, before we read the Torah service, I want to remind you that the Torah is just a scroll with a lot of old stories on it. Sometimes we imagine it to be more significant than it is. It's significant in that it's old, it's our people's story, but the stories in it don't represent truth. They don't represent the best morality. They simply represent what our ancestors thought when they wrote it down. And sometimes it's easy to, when we watch all the sort of honorifics around Torah, we all stand in honor of the past and anticipation of the future. Some will kiss the Torah and some will dance with it, some will show it. We tend to sometimes make it more of an idol than a text. So this year we're going to treat it like what it is, a text. No need to stand. Don't worry, you won't get in trouble. I've given you all dispensation for not standing at this moment. And we're going to read the Torah service with the Torah in the ark. The Torah gives us insight into the fundamental questions asked by our ancestors, reminding us that these questions are universal. We are bound generation by virtue of the search, rather than the answers we uncover. Each generation is challenged to find its own meaning and its own purpose. Our ancestors sought wisdom and understanding in their age, and we are inspired to do the same. They sought their own answers with sincerity of heart, integrity of mind, passion of spirit. The Torah brings us closer to events of the distant past, making us aware of the diverse and complex history of our people. Knowing that no one document contains all of our people's wisdom, we hold the Torah up as a symbol of our search to gain understanding. The Torah is more than the words written upon the scroll. It's a symbol of the Jewish experience, the pain and the joy, the sorrow and the promise. The Torah links us to past generations, calling us to assume our place in the evolution of our people. We seek our own answers with sincerity of heart, integrity of mind, passion of spirit. We embrace the Torah with pride and awe, recognizing the responsibility we carry. We embrace the Torah with respect for our past and a commitment to the future. May we gain insight from its words and from all sources of wisdom. May we be worthy of our task to hold our Torah with integrity and pride.
Au shlosha devarim, au shlosha devarim, au shlosha devarim, olam omed. Au shlosha devarim, au shlosha devarim, au shlosha devarim, olam omed. Al haTorah ve'ha'avodah ve'ha'gemilut hasadim. Al haTorah ve'ha'avodah ve'ha'gemilut hasadim. Au shlosha devarim, au shlosha devarim, au shlosha devarim, olam omed.
So, given that I'm outside and I have a small podium, I'm not, as I said, going to be opening up the Torah. I'll tell you a secret, it actually makes it easier. Because I have the vocalized Torah portion in front of me, so it makes it simpler. At Congregation Beth Adam, we have a tradition of picking what Torah portions we are going to read for the high holidays. We also give that same right and that same opportunity to our B'nai Mitzvah students. Our students, when they have their bar bat mitzvah, are not required to read the Torah portion that our ancestors assigned for each week. They can pick whatever portion resonates with them, whichever portion speaks to the topic that they're going to research. We believe that the Torah is a resource for us. We aren't bound by the constraints or the dictates of those who came before us. We have the right to make decisions about which of those stories speak to us and how we want to use them on any particular holiday or any particular Shabbat for a bar or bat mitzvah. So this year, we picked as our Torah portion, not the one that is required or assigned, but one that we felt spoke to the moment and speaks to some of the themes that I've been developing for last night and I will develop again on Yom Kippur. We picked the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. I picked that story of Sodom and Gomorrah because it contrasts so profoundly with the story that is historically assigned to Rosh Hashanah, which is the binding of Isaac. Let's just talk about those two. Both have the same main characters, God and Abraham. But they are incredibly different. The binding of Isaac, God tells Abraham to kill his son. Abraham gets up early and goes off to kill his son, no questions asked. Story of Sodom and Gomorrah. God says, I'm going to destroy the city, and Abraham argues, saying, will the God of justice not act justly? These are two different theological positions. They're the same characters, but they act differently. In the binding of Isaac, God says to Abraham, kill your son, and Abraham acts upon God's words, no questions asked. And if Abraham were to be tried for the crime of sacrificing his son, his answer would have been, I was following orders. Because God is always just, no matter what he says. That's the theology embedded in that story. And the theology of Sodom and Gomorrah is God isn't always just, because there is a concept of justice independent and greater than God, and he has to be held to that standard as well. Those are two different theological positions that are embedded in the Torah just 4 chapters apart. So you may be saying, wait a second. How did Abraham change so quickly? Isn't this character the same character? Shouldn't he have acted the same way? And the answer is, 2 different people wrote the stories. These are stories. They're written by different people at different times, and they were woven together. And it's only later that the rabbis, and in tradition even today, people try to make them fit together to make sense, rather than seeing the distinction that exists between them. For us, that distinction is incredibly important. Because it matters what somebody says. When they use the term God, it matters how they understand that term. That term isn't one size fits all. That term doesn't mean the same thing to all people. That term has different meanings throughout Jewish history, and it has different meanings today. What we believe, whether we use the term God or not, matters. What we believe is the foundation upon which we stand. It is the basis upon which we make decisions about the world in which we live, how we act, morals, ethics, justice. One concept of God is you follow without question. The other is individuals have agencies, and they have a reason and a will to make decisions. And right now in the history of America, and the history of the world, frankly, this couldn't be more important to point out again. We are at a time when there are well-organized and well-funded sources who want to return to a theology of the binding of Isaac, that what God says, that his will must be done, no questions asked. There are forces that claim that God is speaking to them, handing down dictates, and everybody needs to follow them. At this junction, we need to speak out. We need to reject that theology. And we need to be clear about it. No euphemisms, no subtleties, as I said last night. We need to be clear about what we believe and the implications of that. That's why we're reading the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. To see that even some element within Jewish history, some writers, some thinkers long before us began to recognize the differences of theology. They began to recognize human agency. They began to recognize that there is a concept of justice, and everything in the universe, including the ultimate authority in their age, God, needs to be judged by that. So we're going to jump into this story. I'm assuming that you remember it, but it's been a couple of years, right? COVID fog, we're all a little bit, right? So we're going to give you a little background. Sodom and Gomorrah, two different cities, and God decides he is going to destroy the cities. At one point he says, should I tell Abraham what I'm going to do? Which is an interesting line. We'll deal with that in our Zoom hybrid Torah study later on. But he decides to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah for its sin. Now, we're not going to get into the conversation about sin too much. We'll do that again during the Zoom Torah study. But suffice it to say that the rabbinic commentaries did not think it was sexual. That is also an idea that was laid on it later on. Now, it also should be noted that Sodom and Gomorrah were not exclusively Jewish places. So Abraham wasn't just arguing for the sake of the Jewish people or his people. He was arguing for the sake of people, that human beings shouldn't be simply destroyed, killed, wiped out. This is a piece of the story we should take to heart. It isn't just about us, it's about all people. So God has made the decision to destroy the city, already the cities, and we're going to jump in now. Vivnu misham ha'anashim, and the agents went ve'alchu misodoma, and they went from Sodom. There were some visitors, and they left. Avraham odenu omed lifnei Adonai. So they left, and Abraham remained standing before God. Vayigash Avraham, and Abraham came forward. Vayomar, and he said, Ha'af tisped sadik im rasha. Will you sweep away, and what we understand sweep away to mean there, will you kill the innocent along with the guilty? Pretty bold statement. Abraham looking up at God and saying, will you do this? Will you kill innocent people? And Abraham continues, Ula yesh hamichim tzadikim b'toch ha'ir. What if there are 50 innocents within the city? Ha'af tispeh v'lo tisal l'makom l'ma'an hamishim tzadikim asher b'kirba? Will you wipe out this place and not forgive it for the sake of 50 innocents who are there? Halila lacha ma'asot k'davar hazeh. Far be it from you to do such a thing. Lahamit tzadik im rasha, to bring death upon the innocent as well as the guilty. V'chaya hatzadik kerasha, halila lach hashofet kol haaretz lo ya'aseh mishpat. So that the innocent and the guilty fare alike. And then Abraham says this, far be it from you. Shall not the judge of all the earth deal justly? He just threw up the concept of justice in God's face. Don't you know justice, God? Vayomer Adonai. And God said, Im emtsa b'tzedom hamishim tzadikim b'toch ha'ir, if I find 50 righteous in the city, v'nasati l'chol hamakom ba'avuram, I will forgive the whole place for the sake of them. Abraham negotiated with God, and God backed down. Now, I think, perhaps the rest of the story. Abraham negotiates by 5s and 10s, eventually getting God down to, if there are 10 people, he will not destroy the city. Well, 10 people aren't found, and the city is destroyed. It's an incredibly disturbing tale. Everybody in these towns were killed, including the children. Death was rained down on everyone, claiming there were 10 innocents. This story is problematic. It's held up as, oh, God destroys those who sin. But it becomes questionable what kind of judge a God is that judges children that way. The people aren't given a chance to repent either. The people don't know that they're going to be slaughtered. It just simply rains down upon them. This story is deeply problematic. Of course, this is just one of the horrible events. I mean, there's a lot of violence in the Torah. There's a lot of death. There's a lot of people who are killed. This is one of those stories. And it raises questions about justice and morality and who decides and when are those decisions made. What was the crime they committed? The rabbi suggests in their commentaries that the crime that they committed was they didn't take care of the less fortunate. We have a responsibility to take care of the less fortunate. That concept seems to have existed a lot through history. It doesn't make it right because it's in the Torah. It makes it right because those who are less fortunate are deserving of good treatment. But to destroy entire towns because of that is questionable. Callousness and indifference still exists within our own day. There will be no divine punishment for us if we don't care for the poor, if we do not take care of those less fortunate. But when we don't, our communities and our nation is lessened by our indifference and our lack of caring. At this point, we would rewrap the Torah and put it in the ark, but there is no Torah to rewrap, and there is no ark that's opened. So we're going to continue with, it is a tree of life to those who hold fast to it, and all who cling to it find happiness. Its ways are ways of pleasantness, and all its paths are peace.
עץ חיים היא למחזיקים בה, ותומכיה מאושר. דרכיה דרכי נועם, וכל נתיבותיה שלום. עץ חיים היא למחזיקים בה, ותומכיה מאושר.
Hillel said, "What is hateful to you, do not do to your neighbor." This is the whole Torah. The rest is commentary. Go study. Just give me a second to get in there. Thanks.
Just a reminder that we will be having a text study on that portion at 1 o'clock, and to please join us. Hybrid, you can do it in person or you can do it online. During much of my childhood, my grandparents used to travel to different parts of the world. And when they returned, they would bring with them, to me, a souvenir from where they had been, a snow globe. When they returned from London, I had a snow globe with Big Ben. From Norway trip, I had a snow globe with a reindeer inside. And my favorite one was Hawaii, a surfer riding a wave. I never quite understood about the weather systems in Hawaii, but it didn't stop me from hours of shaking and waiting for the snow to settle. I would tip the snow globe over and I would shake it as vigorously as my small hands would allow. And after a little bit, I would quickly turn it back over, watching the snow swirl, obscuring Big Ben or the reindeer of the surfer. And I would be transfixed, waiting for the snow to settle at the bottom. And magically, the image would become clear. Well, in honor of trying new things in the new year, I got a little crafty, so I attempted to make my own snow globe. I'm not sure how well it's going to work. It has a little polar bear in it. Now, the bear didn't have enough glue on it. It's hard to make one of these, obviously. It's a rookie mistake, and it careens around a little bit. But eventually I was laying down for what I would like to call a nap in the big pile of snow on the bottom, often upside down, but clearly visible. Over the past few years, I've had a feeling of living in a world not unlike a shaken snow globe. Whether it was our politics or prices going up and up and up on everything, and oh yes, COVID, it was shaky. And every time I thought our world had settled just a bit to catch my breath, the next shake would come. Now, feeling shaken is not a new phenomenon. The stories of the Torah, actually most of the book of Genesis, it's one big shake. Every time things seem to get close to settling down for our ancestors, the character of God likes to stir things up. Garden of Eden, let's find out we're naked, shake. Cain and Abel, brother pitted against brother, shake. Noah, flood, shake. It is ongoing and unsettling. Even the father of the Jews, Abraham, is tested no less than 10 times by God. Abraham's world is shaken up over and over again, and every time Abraham thinks he's done, one more shake, culminating in the sacrifice of his son Isaac, a big shake. From the myths of our ancestors up to today, a swirling hot mess of snowflakes. We need a break. Over the last 3 years, it's been so challenging to find a moment of settledness, of peace, a moment of serenity. In 1934, American theologian Reinhold Niebuhr wrote what is now known as the Serenity Prayer. It was originally given to the troops in World War II and eventually found its way into 12-step meetings where it is prevalent to today. The Serenity Prayer, even though often directed to a higher power or God, is not religious in nature. It is a human teaching, a teaching that may give us all a chance to find some of that peace that we seek. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Just 26 words, it encapsulates the heart and the soul of our human condition. So what is serenity, this serenity that we're looking for? Interestingly, the Latin root of this word has the implication of both calmness and clearness. Perhaps a still snow globe deep within us that we can access through acceptance, through courage, and through wisdom. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. When faced with a difficult situation, our first instinct is often to try to figure out how to fix it, to get out of the discomfort and find an answer. Our anxiety, uncertainty tells us that if we can just control the narrative, control the story, control the spin, fix the other person, everything will be okay. That is a very tall order and not very realistic. We are human after all, and therefore some things are actually beyond our control. To find our serenity, we need to attempt to accept what is outside of our control. There are many things which, no matter how hard you might try to change them, and no matter how hard you may hope to change them, you just can't. You just have to learn to live with them and to make your peace with them. Especially, it seems, when we deal with things that are close to our hearts, things that we feel responsible for and fear losing. It is said that when you have children, your heart lives outside your body. And children can mean animals too. Things that we care for and nourish and love. We feel vulnerable, and it is terrifying to realize on a daily basis how little control I have over the well-being of my own children. Every time they step out of the door, out of my sight, my heart skips a beat. The anxiety of not having control causes fear to hijack my brain. So I then try to exert control, and I react in a not so serene way. When our children were little, we went to Disney World. We were at Animal Kingdom, and there was a huge crowd of people to see a monkey, I think. I was holding my son Kobe's hand. He was about 4 at the time, when I was jostled by the 8th stroller that had hit me in the ankles that morning. I turned and I let go of his hand, and by the time I reached back, he was gone. Anyone who's been there before, raise your hand. Yes, thank you. So you know, yes, that sinking panic was exactly how I felt. Absolutely terrified. I began to call Kobe's name quietly at first, and then as the fear mounted, I started to yell louder and louder and louder and run through the crowd in a strange circular pattern. I had lost my son, I kept saying in my head. To say I was out of control would be an understatement, and I'm sure I was frightening other people and their children with my yelling and running and circling. Horrible scenarios began to fill my head, and I careened faster and faster and faster, and finally, after 15 excruciating minutes, I saw him running toward me with a flower he had picked up. "Daddy, for you," Kobe said. He hadn't even realized he was missing. And what did I do in this moment of reunion? Yes, you're right. I lost it, yelling at him about how he should never do that again and how scared I was, not even realizing that I hadn't told him how glad I was to see him or thank him for the beautiful flower. He must have been so confused. To him, he was bringing me a flower, and I was responding like a wounded bear. I was so worked up, so scared, swirling around that I couldn't even see my own son when I had found him. Out of my control. Led to fear, which led to an extreme reaction. So much of our life is out of control, things that we cannot control. Whether it's an unforeseen financial situation, a job loss, an illness, a death, or even losing a child at Animal Kingdom for 15 minutes. It is so hard to not be in control of our emotions and our environment. And acceptance is when we let go of the pressure we put on ourselves to exert control unrealistically on our lives. And by doing so, leave ourselves open to the possibility of a better way, shift in perspective, a more calm and clear and serene worldview. The shaking will always happen. That's just part of being alive. However, life isn't just a passive experience. We do have some control, actually. There are some things we can actively do to find serenity. The courage to change the things you can. The late Nelson Mandela wrote after 20 years of incarceration, "I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear." There are many things, even fears in this life, which you can overcome if you face them with strength and courage. That is how we react to being shaken. That will help us move forward during difficult times. It takes strength to accept the vast landscape of reality we cannot control, and courage to seize the opportunities to work on what we can change our reactions, our awareness, beginning with our attitude. Author Maya Angelou wrote, "If you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude." While we cannot control another person's reaction to you or their attitude, or even a challenging situation in your life, you can be in control of your own attitude and reaction. One of our greatest freedoms is how we respond to things and how we engage and react to the world. A very old story is told. Once upon a time, family had twin boys whose only resemblance to each other was their looks. If one felt it was too hot, the other thought it was too cold. If one said the TV was too loud, the other claimed the volume needed to be turned up. And one was an eternal optimist, always hopeful about everything. The other, doom and gloom pessimist with a worldview to match. Just to see what would happen on the twins' birthday, while they were at school, their father loaded the pessimist room with every imaginable toy and game. The optimist room he loaded with horse manure. Sure enough, that evening, the father passed by the pessimist room and found him sitting amidst his new gifts, crying bitterly. "Why are you crying?" the father asked. "Because my friends will be jealous I have all these toys. I'll have to read all these instructions before I can do anything with this stuff. I'll constantly need batteries, and my toys will eventually get broken," answered the pessimist. Passing the optimist twins' room, the father found him dancing for joy in the pile of manure. "What are you so happy about?" he asked. To which his optimist twin replied, "With all this crap, there's got to be a pony in here somewhere." So when faced with a pile of crap, keep digging. It isn't easy to change our attitude, but yet we are not passive passengers on this journey. We do have some autonomy and power to affect ourselves, our attitudes and perspectives, because our attitude changes the world. But it will also take courage. Courage to know that what is in our control and to recognize that not everything is beyond us. As individuals with at least some power and volition, we're also able to exercise our agency over some of our circumstances. We know this. We've experienced life and how our attitude has helped us. We seek that determination to seize and act upon those opportunities when they arise, especially when it relates to our responses. For how we see the world can literally change a pile of crap. The wisdom to know the difference. With acceptance and courage on board, things in the snow globe begin to settle. The globe is becoming more clear. We're able to see more clearly, and by doing so, open to what will come next. We now seek the power of discernment, and we ask for wisdom. A story is told: a woman goes on a trip to the desert. At one point, she walks off alone and suddenly stumbles upon an old lamp. It's old, but it may bring a few dollars. She rubs the lamp and is amazed when a genie pops out. The genie says that he will grant the woman only one wish, and that she has to pick from three choices. She can either be the richest woman in the world, the most popular woman in the world, or the wisest woman in the world. The woman says, "We all know that money does not bring happiness, and that popularity just makes you a slave to the whims of others, but wisdom is everlasting. I want to be the wisest woman in the world." The genie goes, poof, and suddenly the woman's face assumes a serene expression. She sits down and rubs her chin in thought. Then she looks toward the genie and says, "I should have taken the money." Genies and lamps notwithstanding, there are concrete ways that we can gain wisdom. One is exploring our experience of life up to this moment, for experience can be the source of deep wisdom, if we are wise enough to recognize it. I'd like to think with age comes wisdom. After all, there has to be some benefit for all of this thing going on. Experience is thought to be that great teacher, and it would be right in line with the idea that wisdom comes through aging. This theory is that more than one experiences, that when we experience control versus out of control in the pendulum that they go back and forth, the better one will be able to tell the difference between the two. Now, I see some younger congregants here, and I don't want you to think it's just the seasoned members of our community that might have the answers to this. Stories told a little boy was overheard talking to himself as he strutted through the backyard, waving his baseball cap and toting a ball and bat. "I'm the greatest hitter in the world," he announced. Then he tossed the ball up in the air, and he swung at it and missed. "Strike one," he yelled. Undaunted, the boy picked up the ball and said again, "I'm the greatest hitter in the world." He tossed the ball up in the air. When it came down, he swung again and missed. "Strike two," he cried. The boy then paused a moment to examine his bat and ball carefully. He spit on his hands, rubbed them together. He straightened his cap and once again says, "I'm the greatest hitter in the world." Again, he tosses the ball up in the air and swings at it. He misses. Strike 3. Wow, he exclaimed, I'm the greatest pitcher in the world. The wisdom to know the difference between what we control and what we can't, between who or how we want to be and who or how we don't, between what we want to do and what we want to go or not, or abiding wisdom can be gleaned from a variety of sources. But I believe that ultimately it comes down to believing in ourselves, our whole selves, the controllable and the uncontrollable, our reactions, and ultimately our ability to figure out we might be the best pitcher in the world. Just to let go of the control and working on our attitude, and most of all, just listening to ourselves, listening to what our intuition, our heart, our soul is telling us. It will take courage. It will take the acceptance of our limitations, but serenity is really truly found when we realize the answers have been within us, within it all along. Let's come back to my snow globe, which amazingly still is working, because they said the last real Jewish handyman was Jesus. So perhaps the secret of the Serenity Prayer lies within the snow globe itself, within ourselves, our ability to stop trying to fix and control the storm, the courage to trust that it will slow down, and the wisdom to ride it out while letting the flakes of snow settle. If we slow down, listen, and wait for the shaking to stop, maybe then we will be able to accept the things we cannot change, have the courage to change the things we can, and in the end, be open to receive the wisdom to know the difference. Shana Tova.
We continue our service on page 29 with the sounding of the shofar, which will be done out here. And we're only going, just so a prelude, we're only going to be reading together the final stanza of notes. Artie will come forward at that point and sound, though. We're not going to do it 3 different times, just do it once. All of these decisions we've made, mentioned this last night, was a way to mitigate. We didn't know exactly where COVID was going to be, so we want to make sure we keep everyone as safe and healthy as possible. So we continue with the sounding of the shofar. When so many know hunger, when so many know suffering, it is hard to savor our portion. When so many know pain, when so many know oppression, it is hard to enjoy our freedom. When violence shatters the stillness, when prejudice stands for reason, it is hard to believe in fairness. When anger is rampant, when envy is strong, it is hard to feel at peace. When there's torment in our hearts, when there is confusion in our souls, it is hard to dream of a better world. Yet, we must resist the temptation to succumb to despair. We cannot allow the harshness of our time to diminish our dream. For as our ancestors taught in the Proverbs long ago, Be'ein hazon yifara am, where there is no vision, a people perish. Though the words of our ancestors have echoed for generation, their vision of a better world must infuse our action, stir our passions, encourage our hearts. We must strive to attain the passion of Amos, so that justice rolls down like water and righteousness flows like a mighty river. As we sound the shofar, we allow its ancient sound to awaken us to the dream that is not lost, but is yet to be realized.
V'hafarata shofar teruah b'chodesh hashvi'i b'yom rishon Rosh Hashanah tabarim shofar b'kol artzachem. Sound the shofar loud in the 7th month. On Rosh Hashanah, sound the shofar throughout the land and proclaim liberty to all that dwell therein. The sound of the shofar awakens us to the world in which we live. The blast of the shofar is a call to action, challenging us to resist evil, to strive for justice, to create peace. May our ears not be closed to the sound of the shofar and the challenge it presents. The sound of the shofar awakens us from the trance of indifference. The blast of the shofar reverberates through the walls of our complacency, shattering our unwarranted fears, sustaining our frustrating hopes, challenging dormant dreams. The blast of the shofar is a call to action. It moves us to stretch beyond our past. May our ears not be closed to the sound of the shofar and the challenge it presents. So Artie, if you'll grab the shofar. And we'll say the once Artie is here, we'll say the sounds together, and we'll hear the sound of the shofar. Get it? I'm gonna move this out of the way. Why don't you stand right in front, right there? There we go. We say together, Tekiah, Shofarim, Teruah, Tekiah, Tekiah, Shofarim, Tekiah, Tekiah, Teruah, Tekiah Gadolah. There you go. Thanks, Artie. Here. Here.
It's such an honor to hear Artie blow the shofar every year, and thank you very much. It's exquisite and wonderful, and it's a nice way to start our new year. We continue on page 32. Though we are many, let us speak with one voice. Though our paths are diverse, let us stand united. Our bond is our strength. V'nit hazek lidor hador. Today we offer a dream of peace. Today we speak to one purpose, to seek justice and harmony. Our vision is our strength. V'nit hazek lidor vador. May we stand with resolve, ready to do our share. May we rise to the task at hand, for together we can prevail. Our commitment is our strength. V'nit hazek lidor vador. Though our numbers may be few, our impact can be great. May we honor knowledge, dispel superstition. May we promote understanding. May we diminish pain. Our conviction is our strength. V'nit hazek lidor vador. Each of us shares the responsibility. Each of us leaves a legacy. We can feed the hungry. We can stay the terror. We can work to find a way. Our humanity is our strength. V'nit hazek lidor vador. We may not succeed, but we will not fail. By uniting, we find our strength. V'nit hazek lidor vador. To every beginning there comes an end. Today we celebrate a beginning while realizing this new year will end. So it is with life. Every living being yields to death. It is inescapable, an end that must come because there was once a beginning. Today, at this season of beginnings, we also recall endings. Those of our loved ones, our family, our friends, those who influenced our lives yet are no longer among the living. We shared so much with them. We learned from them, we love them, and as we embark on this new year, may these memories strengthen us and give us courage. We also remember today the men and women who have lost their lives in the service of this country, the people who have no one to say a prayer for them, and just remember those in your heart, people you've known and loved. And if you're able to, please rise. In b'dei hamavet hakoach la'akor ma shatamum valev. Death cannot take that which is locked in our hearts. With our tears and our sorrow we remember. With our courage and our strength we do not forget. Acts of kindness, deeds of courage will remain. Beauty created, wisdom shared is not lost. With our tears and our sorrow we remember. Im dama'ot be'einenu be'et evlenu nishmor al zecher ahuvenu. With our tears and our sorrow we remember. Zecher tzadik livracha. May the memory of good people bless our days.
May the memory of good people bless our days. Bless our days, bless our days. Zecher, Zecher, Zecher tzadik livracha, livracha. Zecher, Zecher tzadik livracha.
Please be seated. We take a moment for silent reflection.
Finally, we ask ourselves, do I give of my possessions, but rarely of myself? My true values are reflected in my choices. Do I strive for the well-being of my person, my family, my nation, my world? The range of my boundaries reflects the depth of my spirit. At this time of self-reflection, I stand in judgment. One year ends and another begins, and we are mindful that we are creatures of time. Each year, each day is precious beyond compare, for it cannot be relived. May the new year find us keenly aware of its priceless possibilities. May the strength and courage displayed in every victory of the human spirit be fuel to us. For we too are offspring of that long ago beginning. We too carry the seeds of tenacity, perseverance, and creativity. It is incumbent upon us to use our gifts that we may be worthy of our heritage. In a moment, our service will end, And you're invited, those of you in the sanctuary, to come join us outside in the great space for our oneg, our reception. We can do it outside. It's fresh. It's a beautiful day. It's a great opportunity to be out there if you have not been out in our great space. Before we conclude, I want to thank Rabbi Burstein for leading services and his wonderful sermon and his snow globe. He is now selling them. I think on Etsy, just right. You have a little side thing going on. He'll put whatever colors in and whatever objects, and by the next one, you'll have that bear glued to the bottom. It won't float. Right? You'll have it done. Okay, we got it. Cool. I want to thank Linda Callahan for reading, Artie Wander for sounding the shofar. 40 years, I think. 42 years of sounding the shofar. I mean, that's a really amazing, and we seem to be doing it a lot differently each time. I want to thank Scott Booz and Megan Schneider, who I forgot last night, for singing, and Scott for playing, and then Larry and Appleblatt and Sam Cooper, who are downstairs streaming to those of you online. One of our other folks got sick. We've had a lot of illness, so Sam stepped in the middle of this when we needed his help. And Melissa Weiss and Jody Rosen, who are following, making sure the chat's going well. So those of you online, if you have questions, ask Jody or Melissa. They'll give you the information. You can find the schedule for those of you in the sanctuary. The green sheets give the schedule upcoming events, the hybrid Torah study at 1, and then the children's service at 2:30. And I hope to see you all to continue with Yom Kippur. So at this point, I'll ask those who are able to rise for our closing.
May it be a good year. May it be a healthy year. May it be a healthy year. May it be a year of peace. May it be a year of peace. May it be a good year. May it be a healthy year. May it be a year of peace. May it be a good year. May it be a healthy year. May it be a healthy year. May it be a year of peace. May we have the strength. May we have the strength to make it so. To make it so. Shana tova lecho bnei Yisrael ulecho bnei Enosh. Shana tova lecho bnei Yisrael ulecho bnei Enosh.
Shana Tova l'chol b'nei Yisrael l'chol b'nei Enosh. May it be a good year, the people of Israel, for all the people in the world. Shana Tova.
Shana tova.